I hoisted the basket back down to the swimmer. First, he helped a woman into the basket. Then he started putting things into the basket with her. I squinted my eyes in an attempt to see what he was loading through the thick rain. It appeared to be bundles of clothes. We're low on fuel. She doesn't need her stuff. The swimmer placed several more bundles into the basket and finally gave me the pickup signal. Confused, but trusting Troy and his reasoning, I hoisted the woman and her baggage up into the helicopter. I simply pushed the basket into the cabin and directed her to stay put. "That's everyone," I told the pilots. "Just the swimmer is left." "Okay." I looked behind me to figure out where he should go, only to realize that the cabin was so full that I was being pushed to the door's edge myself. "There's barely any more room," I told the pilots. "He's going to have to squeeze by the door," the pilot responded. "And Ash, just grab a hold of his harness and leave the door open. Make sure he is secure." "Roger." I grabbed his arms and locked them into mine as I knelt on the cabin floor. I turned around to check on all of the survivors. I had placed a young boy in my seat who must have been only 5 or 6 years old. He was alone and terrified, wearing nothing but a t-shirt and shorts. His thin, little legs were shaking uncontrollably. I looked at him and spoke loudly so he could hear me over the roar of the storm. "You are sitting in the best seat in the house!" I gave him a big smile and grabbed his hand to comfort him. I placed a survival blanket over his trembling legs. This small gesture seemed to ease his mind. My attention quickly turned to the rest of my survivors. The woman in the basket was leaning forward, trying to grab a yellow bundle by her feet. I leaned over to see that she was reaching for a rain jacket but was unable to grasp it because of the large bundles she was holding against her chest and in her lap. I reached toward the yellow bundle and started to lift the edge of the jacket, revealing the unmistakable color of flesh. I pulled the fabric back further to reveal a tiny face peering up at me. It was a beautiful baby boy. His sparse, light hair was wet and glued to his forehead, and his diaper was bloated, but he didn't seem to mind his adverse environment. He was still and stared up at me with large, pensive eyes. I reached down to touch his head, but he grabbed my hand first. He wrapped his tiny hand around 2 of my fingers and squeezed. His face lit up with the type of wide-eyed excitement that only the innocence of a child could produce. I looked up from the excited baby to see the woman in the basket carefully inspecting the rest of her belongings. There were 3 more bundles in her lap. Each was a balled-up mass of soaking wet jackets and blankets. She carefully picked up one of the bundles and placed it against her left shoulder. She pulled back a flap of wet fabric just enough to reveal a second baby with thick, black hair hidden underneath. 2 bundles remained. With her one free hand, she scooped up the 3rd bundle and propped it against her right shoulder. Yet another baby was swaddled within. This one was flailing so much that he pushed the fabric off himself. After she secured the 2 babies on her shoulders and the one smiling baby nestled at her feet, she checked on the bundle that was still on her lap. My heart sank as I realized how still this last remaining bundle was. If there was a 4th baby inside, I would think it would be kicking and squirming like the others. She peeled back the jacket to reveal another little body lying face down and motionless. Panic set in instantly, and I was certain something was horribly wrong.